Hey everyone, Pastor Bob here, back for Wednesdays in the Word. I'm just coming back from sabbatical for the summer, and I've missed being with you and sharing some things that the Lord is teaching me in my life. One of the things the Lord taught me a lot about over the summer on my sabbatical was trusting in Him. No matter what giant is in your path, no matter what bear is around the corner, and it certainly feels like that in life sometimes, God desires our trust. He desires us to look to Him first in whatever we're going through. And so I thought today what I'd like to share with you that I was thinking about, and I didn't get to talk about a lot in the sermon this last week, looking at 1 Samuel 18 to 20, was a really obscure section of the passage in 1 Samuel 19. And the key principle for 1 Samuel 19 was that I think the Lord is teaching us is simply this: we got to trust God's protection. I'll say that again. We got to trust God's protection. And there's in 1 Samuel 19, Saul is now out to get David. There's three murder plots that are all thwarted in different ways. First, God uses Jonathan. Lastly, He uses the prophet Samuel, which is an interesting scene in and of itself. But in the middle, God uses David's wife, Michal. And so what happens is that Saul sends assassins basically to David's house that are gonna kill him, and Michal, David's wife, recognizes this and she helps David escape. So let me just read a couple. This is 1 Samuel 19, 11 to 17. 1 Samuel 19, 11 to 17, and it begins this way. It says, Saul sent messengers to David's house to watch him, that he might kill him in the morning. Now, I imagine, just put yourself in David's shoes, because David, in a lot of ways, is probably getting tired of this pursuit. This is his father-in-law who's trying to kill him, seemingly for no reason. So, I mean, if that was me, I'd have a lot of anxiety going on in my life. But thankfully, it tells us that in verse 11, but Michal, David's wife, told him, if you do not escape with your life tonight, tomorrow you will be killed. So look at how God uses Michal. So Michal let David down through the window, and he fled and escaped. Michal, but this is how she thwarts the plan. Verse 13, it says, Michal took an image, or literally that can be translated as idol, and laid it on the bed and put a pillow of goat's hair at its head and covered it with the clothes. And when Saul sent messengers to take David, she said, he is sick. And then Saul sent the messengers to see David, saying, bring him up to me in the bed, that I may kill him. And when the messengers came in, behold, the image, the idol, was in the bed, with the pillow of goat's hair at its head. And then Saul said to Michal, why have you deceived me thus, and let my enemy go, so that he has escaped? And Michal answered Saul, he said to me, let me go, why should I kill you? So, I want to share about this for just a minute or two, because this is kind of an interesting, complicated part of the story. And there's three things I want to highlight for you. First, what Michal did to save David was she helped him escape, which was good. But then secondly, what she used to thwart the plan was really interesting, because that word for image, this is in the ESV, or idol in other translations, in verse 13, is the Hebrew word targum. The word targum, and that word often meant that this was an idol to a foreign god that was used for divination, or to call up spirits from the dead. So as I was studying this was a really interesting part to the story to me, because this indicated something's going on in David's house with his wife. She in some way, shape, or form is not worshiping the true God of the Bible. And yet God uses her, but that to me was a warning that these are things we should keep from being in our house. And then secondly, so first of all, she's got the idol that she's using. Secondly, when Saul's messengers come in to try and kill David, she basically lies to them and says he's sick. And they find out the lie, and Saul confronts her, and then she lies again. He says, why did you try to deceive me? And she said, well, David said, let me go, I'm going to kill you, which none of that was true. So this to me is, and a lot of the Old Testament stories are really complicated. It's like God uses broken people for His purposes. So in this case, God uses Michal as the second way of escape for David in this chapter to thwart an evil, but she does it in a way that is not honoring to God. Whereas Jonathan, who is used, pleads David's case in a God-honoring way, and then Samuel through Samuel, the prophet, we see the power of God coming and thwarting Saul's plan. So the messages from this chapter, I think, that I've taken away is basically, number one, yes, the main theme is we should trust God's protection in whatever we're doing. God can use multiple people in multiple ways, but there's also a warning on how we engage, because Michal is showing a lack of trust in God and how she's helping David. First of all, she's worshiping false gods, it seems, and then secondly, she's not being truthful. And God is a God who desires truth. So there's both an admonition and a warning in this passage, and it helps me to take a step back and look at my own life and ask, am I really trusting God with any situation that comes my way? Am I trusting Him, or am I showing a lack of trust in my response to the situations that are coming to me? And the reality is, both are true in my life at different times. And so what God is desiring to do, I think, for each of us is peel away the parts that are not trusting Him fully, that in some cases may be acting overtly disobedient or unknowingly disobedient, to bring all of our life under submission to God's authority so that He could use us more fully. So that to me is just a really interesting part of this passage in 1 Samuel 19 and a lot of Old Testament narratives. God uses broken people for His purposes, but at the same time, that's not a prescription on how we should live. It's a description on how people did live. The Bible shows us both how to live, and it shows us how not to live in many cases. So my hope and prayer for you today is whatever you're walking through, that you will be somebody who trusts God's protection and seeks to walk in His ways in all areas of life. So that's my exhortation for you today. There's a lot more to say about 1 Samuel 19, but I'll leave it there for today, and hopefully next week you'll come back for some Wednesdays in the Word.